Welcome to another edition of the BPC Corporate Showcase. My name is Jack Colreavy, Associate Director at Barclay Pearce Capital. And joining me today is the Managing Director of Wellnex, Zack Bozinovski, and Director of Corporate Finance at Orana Corp, Ruari McGirr. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I know it's quite late on your end.
Thanks, Jack. Good to be on.
Well, look, we'll dive straight into it. So, investors would be aware that Wellnex is currently undergoing a dual listing on the London Stock Exchange, and it's taken a little bit longer to sort of get to this point, but we are very much at the end game, which is very exciting. And you have been going around speaking to investors. Zack, we'll just start with what was the reasoning behind the dual listing and seeking London capital markets?
Yeah, Jack. I mean, Wellnex has been going since 2021, so about 3.5 years into our journey, and the company has shown tremendous growth as we've transitioned from a brokerage business, a low margin brokerage business, into a high margin branded business. So as part of the discussions and the move to London, we're really looking at expanding our brands into the UK and other European markets such as Italy, Germany, Spain and France. And that's on the back of our recent announcement that we've supplied Haleon, which is a global pharma company, our IP paracetamol liquid soft gels for their Panadol brand. We supplied that back in Australia back in 2022. And based on the success of that, Jack, they've now launched in the UK. So products should actually be hitting stores here in the UK this week, next week. So hopefully while I'm here, I'll be able to see that. So primarily on the back of the growth of Haleon, listing our products in the UK and European markets. Obviously, raising the money will certainly help us tighten up our balance sheet and give us some clean sailing space and clean air for the future. We've got a lot of innovation, a lot of other ideas, a lot of opportunities that we want to take up, especially distribution expansion in other parts of the market. So they're really sort of the key understandings of why we're here. And also, we do understand that the UK market and those 4 countries I mentioned before, the profile of our products will fit very well in those markets. So we're really excited about, where we're going to go in the future. A lot of opportunities back home in Oz, and a lot of low-hanging fruit, but also it's right now for us to consider our international expansion on the back of the Haleon launch and the back of our products being looking like they'll be successful in these European markets.
Yeah, I think if investors follow the trading updates that have been released to the market over the past few months, they can see how that transition has happened for Wellnex, and the revenue growth has been outstanding, but even more so the margins on those brands and other sort of parts of the business in comparison to the brokerage is just phenomenal. So, having this springboard in which you guys can launch from is very exciting for shareholders, and I'm sure for yourselves. Ruari, you're one of the joint lead managers on the transaction. So you've been helping organise the meetings and putting Zack and George in front of investors. What's the feedback been like? What have they really stuck to in terms of the key investment highlights?
So, Jack, thanks. The couple of things that have been really resonating with people that are really important. One is the Haleon relationship. Obviously, Haleon is coming out of GlaxoSmithKline is a UK business, and so people get it here. And we've got a big part of our stock market is the healthcare industry, so people get that straight away. And for a relatively entrepreneurial small business in around the world to have this sort of relationship, which is mission critical for both parties. It's mission critical for a lot of our business. It's mission critical for big critical parts of Haleon's business. That's fantastic.
Sorry, Ruari, can I just interrupt there? So Haleon, it's not sort of a household name here in Australia. Is it a household name in the UK? And can you sort of touch on some of their brands just quickly?
It is becoming. GlaxoSmithKline is one of the big UK pharmaceutical cornerstones of our stock market and our innovation and all that sort of. So what Haleon was a spin out of their consumer brands. So now GlaxoSmithKline concentrates on doing what it does, and Haleon owns the brands. So it's it's a consumer-facing business, a lot like Zack's business, a consumer-facing business, and Zack's business provides critical IP to some of their big expansion plans.
Yeah. So Halion's one because those investors are very familiar with this $35 billion market cap listed on the LSE sort of company. So I can see how that would resonate with them. What else has been resonating?
So the other thing is obviously is the European and international expansion plan. So Zack and the guys have built a fabulous business in Australia and New Zealand, and the things that they're doing both with their own brands like Wakey Wakey and 1990 and all these wonderful things, and Pain Away in particular. So all of these things have a resonance around the world. They're fantastic brands. They've built a market-leading presence in Australia and New Zealand. And why would they not build similar presences around the world? So as we go in to do that, the business expands its own brands into into Europe, but also it has the platform of the relationship with Haleon, expanding its technology into areas. So it's grandfathered in with great relationships with great brands. And this is so. Why would you not come to the UK markets to raise money for those sorts of products? So that you've got is an expansion plan that suits coming to London. You've got these great relationships, and then you've got the fact that the business, the value of the business is just wrong. You've got a business that Zack and the team have reconstituted. They've made acquisitions. They've done the hard work, the hard yards. They've gone and they've said, right, fine, we've got this. We've got to a cash flow positive, driving value stage of the business. And now what we need to do is put our balance sheet right. And so we're doing our little bit alongside the capital partners in Australia to say, right, fine. As the business expands into Europe, we would love to invest in the growth of this business as well, because Zack has done the hard work. Zack and his colleagues have done the hard work, and we can expand from here.
Yeah, I'm glad you sort of touched on that. I think turnaround stories are sort of hard for investors to sort of trust in, but once they see that demonstration and the results sort of come through, it really sends rockets up share prices. And so I think we're sort of at that stage, and I sense the UK investors sense that as well, which is probably why it has been received so well. I mean, talking about at the higher end of valuations, today on the ASX, the merger between Sigma Pharmaceuticals and Chemist Warehouse will complete. And the valuations on that is very, very strong. Now, it's a business that's adjacent, but it's also a key partnership with Wellnex. Zack, do you want to just speak to that relationship and how you see that sort of moving forward?
We're very fortunate that we've got a very strong relationship with Chemist Warehouse. You have to earn that relationship. So, you don't just rock up with some great brands and products and have a great relationship. I've known them for many years, back from my Sigma days. And obviously when I sold the brokerage and we became Wellnex, they were actually the first customer that we went and saw about launching our liquid soft gels. I had spoken to Haleon in the Asian region, but there wasn't much interest from the Asian region at the time. So I went to the Chemist Warehouse and showed them the product. And Chemist Warehouse, just an amazing retailer. They love innovation. They love new products. They love value-adding products. And that's where liquid paracetamol soft gels were. So the trust they put in me to share that product with them as a first launch partner was reciprocated in a joint venture brand called Wagner Liquid-Gesic. And we launched, I think it was 4 SKUs initially. And literally after a month or two on the shelf, I got the phone call from Haleon in Australia and said, hey, why aren't we talking about a paracetamol soft gel for a Haleon brand? So the relationship is very strong. It's grounded. There's a lot of respect for each other. And as I said, you have to earn that respect with Chemist Warehouse. And I think as a result of the new company with Sigma now, I don't think too many things will change initially, but long term, Sigma now has access. Chemist Warehouse, has access to that Sigma wholesaling business. There's a lot of stores, there's a lot of customers. So not that I know, I'm not projecting anything that's not in the marketplace, but I would imagine as an outsider that Chemist Warehouse will look to expand some of those brands into the Sigma wholesaling business, which augurs well for products like Wagner Liquid-Gesic in particular.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I understand Chemist Warehouse is doing their own sort of UK expansion and moving into that sort of side of the world as well. So it's very nice to see sort of in
they've
tandem.
opened 15 stores in Ireland, and going really, really well. I know they're looking at a few other countries in Europe as well. And I think that was published in a document. I think Italy and Greece were a couple of countries they were looking at expanding as well. But I think, the Boots is a fantastic retailer here in the UK. They're very impressive from a pharmacy perspective. And I genuinely believe that should Chemist Warehouse come to the UK, and if they're in Ireland, as we already know, it's just up the road, so to speak. I think they'd be very, very successful with their model in the UK. It's proven successful in Ireland. So again, it means a lot of hopefully incremental revenue for a lot of Australian companies by having Chemist Warehouse expand into the UK market in particular.
Yeah, no, that's great in terms of growth of supply chains for existing suppliers here, not just for you, but other Australian brands that they stock. And I think it's a great export and it's a great retailer. And I think there's a lot that the UK and European markets can learn from what they've been able to do here. You don't become, Australia's largest prescription provider without having a very strong business and the people behind it. Ruari, I think given your sort of deep experience into London capital markets, I mean, you already sort of touched on the valuation of Wellnex and where the right shortfall will be priced. How do you see Wellnex sort of trading over the next sort of 12 months once they finally make their debut on the London Stock Exchange?
I think that Wellnex is about to go through a major transition, because what's happened is the work that Zack and George and the team there have done with everyone around them is to transition the business on an operational basis. But it has had this balance sheet that has been a bit challenging, and that's worrying for investors. If once we put the balance sheet right collectively between the efforts of the Australian shareholders and here in the UK new shareholders coming in, you have a shareholder base here that really gets healthcare and all that sort of stuff, and they really like putting money. They've done very, very well on it. And once we put a balance sheet behind Zack and George that is commensurate with the work that they have done to turn this business around, some people will buy into it now and go, that's fantastic, I really get it, I see it. We've got those guys coming in and saying, look, I want to be part of this now. And other people will say, you know what, I'll come in over the next few months. So I think we get the business balance sheet cleaned up now, and we create a business that is very, very suitable for the UK markets. It's in the right sector. It's expanding into our territories, and there'll be more and more buyers over the next 6, 12, 18 months. And we're all very, very optimistic about the business. I think sometimes you do the hard yards and then there's a transition moment and you go through. And I think we're going through that transition moment. And it's, spend time talking to Zack. It's a fantastic business that Zack and George have driven forward, and I'm very optimistic about it.
Yeah, well, it's the classic overnight success, 10 years in the making.
10 years, yeah.
And I think we're at that overnight
lucky
sort of
for us
junction.
Here, and actually lucky for investors in London, with these guys, some of the guys came in 6-9 months ago, and while we were still going through the transition. But this is the right time. This is the time. It's the balance sheet is cleared up, and this is the right time to be in this business. It's if you forget about that, this is an absolutely awesome business.
Mm. And you're talking about institutional investors, which I think the Wellnex share registry probably has lacked due to sort of size, etc. in the past. These are investors that are very sophisticated. They have a ton of experience and they see the potential here, and they're able to put their funds under management into the company. And sort of like you said there, they all have different strategies. They all have their sort of risk adjusted returns, and some will be able to come in now at this sort of stage, but quarterly after quarter and half after half and year after year, you'll see greater revenue, greater profit, which opens up that universe.
The guys who are coming in as part of this round are very sophisticated people, and the people who are going, I think, I'm going to follow this, are equally very sophisticated. It's a clean start with people who are listening to Zack and going, actually, that sounds that sounds really, really sensible. I'm prepared to back you.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting news. We're certainly excited in BPC, at the BPC office here in Sydney. I'm personally very excited. I know how hard the guys have worked. And so this is a huge milestone. So congratulations. But the work's just sort of starting. So look, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks. Go on.
To stay up to date on the latest news in Wellnex and its dual listing, please subscribe to the Chairman's List in the link in the description.